Hey guys, it's Vandy. I'm back with Carpet Vanguard deck profile. So, guys, you don't know the comments cards. This time we're covering DZ set 5 for Aelquilibra. So, this is the destined one of scales, the one that pretty much you just pump up a bunch of numbers to all of your rear guards and then beat your opponent down and pray to God they don't have PGs. And honestly, I was not going to upgrade any of the destined one decks outside of like Leo Odium, and then depending on what Levy Dross got this set, Levy Dross as well. And then I was like, you know what, I want an excuse to test out the DZ set start bosses, so I just chose to throw them up against the Destin ones, because why the hell not? And then I actually like the Destin ones support upon testing. So honestly, I'm surprised that I'm even doing this deck profile. But let's get the start shot and see what we got, because honestly the deck does feel like it has been decently upgraded, though I see a trend and it bothers me, but we'll talk about it when we get there. First up, we have, apparently I accidentally skipped it. First up, we have our energy generator. It's our ride deck crest. You mount a ride deck crest in your ride deck. Auto ride deck, when you ride, put this card into your crest zone, burn second energy charge 3. Continues to match 10 energy to make auto begin your ride phase, energy charge 3, then add once per turn, energy blast 7, draw a card. Armor pretty solid, it's a free 3 energy every turn. There's only one card in the deck that actually uses energy blast as a resource, and granted, it's a very important card, but if there are times where you don't have that card into your hand, and sometimes as me, then you're able to use that energy blast 7 to get an extra hand card to hopefully try to dig for it at least. So the energy generator is a nice card, and you mainly use it for your really important main grade 2, but if you can't use it for that, you do get a free draw of it, so there's that. Move on to our starter. We have, I'm going to butcher the hell out of all these cards' name, Harald Dragon. That's as best as we're going to get. Grade 0 boost, 5k shows, K base, all requirements, so I can draw a card, standard starter, no special free drop, you go second. You can make the line starter you want, but I choose to make it the Equilibrium line because, and also I'm going to butcher the hell out of that name too, because I don't even try to pronounce that one properly. But you can make the line starter you want. I choose to make it this one because A, it's the canonical starter of the line, but B, it is a dragon with Gatling guns attached to its wings. Tell me you would not run this. You remember the prayer dragon? I think his name was Ourobargo, the one that was canonically supposed to be the card that you combine with Trickstar to form Bar of Irina. This is what it should have looked like. Look at it. It's beautiful. Anyways, this is our starter. Then we have our Overtrigger and Dragon Deity, King of Resurgence, Drag Veda, Grade 0 boost, 50k show, 5k power, Overtrigger, Overtrigger, your deck, Overtrigger, card draw, got choose one use against the turn. If it draw check, activate its additional effect, which you get to choose over Vanguards and stand it. Are pretty solid because whether you draw checks or damage check this, you get a free million to draw, and someone's either hitting that turn or someone's not getting hit that turn, unless your opponent has their own over. On top of that, you get to choose one of your Vanguards and stand it if you drove check it. And while the Vanguard doesn't get the most power compared to, its support cards, being able to still get an extra Vanguard attack out of it is all around pretty solid. And again, especially when you have big numbered rear guards, so you can apply more pressure with the Vanguard because it still has twin drive, so chances of sacking crit. But on top of that as well, I had another point I completely forgot about. Oh yeah, on top of that as well, the Vanguard has the ability to do a bop damage. So again, restanding Vanguard, nice pressure. You can run Asphoria for recycling. You could run Volna for more consistent multi-attacking, fair enough, but you already have restanding rear guards. And then there's also the what's it called? The Dark Overtrigger for healing Column, but I prefer Drake Veda for more pressure overall. Then we have our normal trigger on 3 copies of Flareveil Dragon, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, keeps guards or opponent's vanguards a grade 3 guard, 5k shield, so it's a 10k shield, nice to have. It draw triggers, helps increase your hand, and when you're kind of throwing everything down from whatever turn you can attack with, whether that's turn 1 or turn 2 onwards, you're pretty much going to need draw triggers to help refill your hand, so 3 of is nice. Then we have a total of 8 crits, 4 copies of Rogue, Beast, Sunagosuri, grade 0 boost, 8k shield, 5k power. You can make this any crit you want, just to make a Sunagosuri because it's the Triumph Dragon, aka the DZ set start box for, Dragon Empire. And the faded ones were confirmed to have the same trigger lineup and starter as those start bosses, which in this case Sunagosuri would then become Varga. And because I was trying to mirror the Destin 1 triggers with the faded 1 triggers, that means Sunagosuri comes over here too. Very confusing line process. Either way, 4 copies of Sunagosuri, you can make the crit you want. And then with 4 copies of Burning Flow Dragon, guards, so boost 50k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear guard, then about boost yourself, so choose one reason to get 2k for the turn. Sometimes you don't run this effect trigger because you just want the extra 5k booster, which does make the difference in guarding, and I can understand that. But in this deck, I definitely recommend you run Burning Flow Dragon because it helps increase your soul, and when your Vanguard has a main skill of Soul Blasting 2, and you might not hit your Soul Charger because apparently that Soul Charger likes to show up once per game, yeah, you're going to want that Soul Charger in case. So total of 8 crit for pressure. We have our 4 heals and Refreshing Wind, Dragon, Dino Breeze. Literally the same exact thing as Sunagosuri. You can run any heal trigger you want, choose to make it Dino Breeze because it was a DZ set thing for triggers, and then it became Varga trigger, and then it became this thing's trigger. So grade 0 boosting against shield 5k power, standing heal, and that's about it. You can really run any heal you want. You can make the counter heals if you want to. I would still stick with the normal heal though personally, just because I like the consistent 15k shield or the fluctuating 10-25k shield, but you know what, you do you. Then move on to our grade 1s. 4 copies of literally my favorite grade 1 in this deck, and ever since this deck has been upgraded to set 2, I have not used this thing at all. Set 5, I mean set 2 for it overall. Dragwitter, Edol, so Eadil. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, auto when placed on rear guard circle if you have 2 or more units with the overcharge ability, including itself. CB1, draw a card, soul charge 1. Okay, this thing's incredible because once you hit grade 1, because you're more likely, or once you hit grade 2, because more likely now you're going to have a damage when you're on grade 1. Once you hit grade 2, you're grade 1 of the ride line. Superior calls itself. It has overcharge. All you got to do is call this thing, because if you have 1 damage, automatically you can just draw a card and soul charge 1 while both players are at grade 2. So pretty solid all around, nice card for resource gaining, and a very good card to flood the field with if you have excess CB. And then Overcharge continues rear guard. If this unit was chosen by the ability of a grade 3 grade of Vanguard with Equilibra in the card name, it gets 10,000 power. I don't hate that skill. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. The skill is fine. Being an 18k when it's chosen by the Vanguard ability, who also gives another 5k, so it's a total of 23k booster or swinger, is amazing. My only issue with this is, this skill verbatim, except for 2 cards in the entirety of the Equilibrium support, have that exact same skill. The only 2 that don't have it are this thing and the grade 3 support card, of which I do not run. Actually, the 2 grade 3 support cards. So there are 3 cards. So literally half, if not all of its support, have the exact same skill verbatim, except for this card, but it kind of does the exact same thing anyway. So 4 of Edol. It's a nice support card. It's a draw card. Soul Charge is an 18k, 23k essentially when chosen by the Vanguard ability. I just hate the fact that so many of them have that exact same skill verbatim, or almost the exact same skill verbatim. Then we have Dragwitter Fariza. So grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, overcharge, it literally has no other supporting ability. Auto rearguard when it boosts, if it was chosen by Equal's ability this turn, it gets 10,000 power for the battle, and at the end of that battle, if you did not counter this turn, retire it to counter other one. Okay, cool. It can open up your board. This deck now has a searcher for the really broken order that can bring back your stuff, and also a broken order that can bring back your stuff. So being able to get your counterblast back is great, though only 1 card in the deck outside of Equilibra actually takes up CB. Well, it would be this, but this is only once per game, and then obviously this. So being able to, if you need to countercharge is great, but also, again, open up your rear guard circle. So maybe if your opponent's playing a binding deck, a Such Doji, you could avoid that, or maybe they're trying to bot deck your rear guards because they're playing Chrono Jet. So if you want to just kind of mess up your board so they can't do it to you, you can use that. And again, it's a 23k booster, so it's not bad. So 4 for Fariza, solid grade 1 to have, good card to early game rush with. Literally, this entire deck is whenever you draw grade 1, just throw them down. Doesn't matter if you go first or second, just board rush your opponent like hell, because once you're not board rushing, your opponent will probably take advantage, and you want to make sure that you put them into high enough damage early, so when you get the big numbers out with the Vanguard, you can easily pressure them per game. So 4 of that. And move on to our PG, 4 of Guardian Monk of Raging Flames Monju. Grade 1 boost, 0 okay, basically continue Sentinel, bad performance till it the deck comes upon a guard circle, choose on views, it cannot be hit on the battle. If your hands 2 more cards in, choose a card from hands card at standard PG, nothing special. Basically means that this one more card hits on guard circle, you don't have to scar was great, because that means you can be as aggressive as you were early game. Like I just said, spam the ever-living hell out of your entirety of the grade 1 lineup, spam the ever-living hell out of your grade 2 lineup, and I mean spam the hell out of your grade 2 lineup. I don't care if you have 2 of this in hand, call both of them to pressure out your opponent. And more likely than not, you'll end up with 1 or less cards in hand once you do that, and then when your opponent eventually counterattacks you and attempts to go for game, Monju, middle finger them, and then proceed to go for game on your turn, because hopefully they went first, and then hopefully they drop most of their hand, so then you can Divine Skill, you can put them to higher damage, and then you can go for game with restanding rear guards. So 4 of Monju, very solid PG to have. You can run any PG from Dragon Empire that has this skill. You could run Twin Buckler Dragon, you could run Plasma Catapult Dragon, that's the wrong card. You could run Sparkle Rejector Dragon, I don't know why I always get those 2 confused. Or you could run Manju, again, they all have the exact same skill. I just to make it Manju because came out to the time of Triumph Dragon's release, and as I've already made it very clear, whatever Triumph Dragon has, Varga has, and whatever Varga has, this deck has. 4 of Manju. We're not going through that party again. Then our last grade 1 in the deck, 1 of them in the ride deck, 3 of them in the main deck, because honestly, my exact words when I was thinking about if I want to put in that really good grade 3 that we just got. Do I want to lose grade 1s for the sake of like more consistency? Do I take aggro or do I take consistency? My exact words about this statement: fuck consistency, aggro all the way. So 4 copies of the thing I cannot say the name of, Rockton 10 Ver Dragon. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, again 3 of the main deck, 1 of the ride deck. Auto and Rotopon by Gatling Kahone Dragon. You may call his card to rear guard, so it can be called Soul Charge 1. Okay, it's not a mandatory call, which is great. So if you want to keep it in Soul for whatever reason, you can. Though, to be fair, if you're worried about like you replacing Soul count because you're going to lose Soul cards, it literally replaces itself with a Soul Charge. So The only reason you wouldn't do this is if you think you're going to soul charge a trigger. So if you think you're going to soul charge a trigger, don't call. But otherwise, you just have a free 8k body. And then overcharge continues rear guard if it was chosen by the ability of your great third guard of anger, Aelquilibra in the card name, plus 10,000 power. Okay, again, 23k swinger, not bad. Or booster, again, it's not bad, and it does help early game support because again, you go first, you ride this, you don't do anything. Your opponent goes, they attack you, you take at least 1 damage. You ride the Gatling Cajon on your next turn. You call this thing, you soul charge 1, you immediately call this thing, counterboss 1, soul charge again, and draw a card. But you know, is what it is. It's a nice card for early game rushing. It is a nice card to all-around rush your opponent down with, and it's a 23k booster or swinger literally at any point in the game once it gets boosted by Aelquilibra, so 4 of. 3 of them in deck, 1 of them in the ride deck. Then we have Drag Rid of Shalhuub. So grade 2, intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. So something I've noticed about this deck when I upgraded it, before I upgraded it, I would see 2 copies of this at most throughout the entire game that would be in my hand. So, or basically for me to be able to call whether in my hand or they're in my drop zone for this order, which I would only draw once per game. So I would only be able to get Shalhuub up like twice out on the board, maybe twice throughout the entire game. However, with this and then I would also see, you know, this guy and all these very consistently. And then we move on to when I add the new support in, I draw almost all copies of this, weirdly enough, even though I only see 1 copy of the Searcher, I will just hard draw the rest of these somehow. And then not to mention the fact I will now draw these guys more consistently, like I've seen almost all of them every single game, at the cost of I somehow don't see any of these anymore. Like I legitimately forgot that this was in my main deck up until I did this deck profile, and I will rarely draw this. So I don't know how I feel about the upgrades considering I've lost like the early game grade 1 rush in comparison for consistency of grade 2s, but you know, we take it as we will. Anyways, Shalhuub, grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. Use rearguard circle during your turn if you have 3 or more units with the overcharge ability, including itself. So this, and literally any other rearguard, give it 5,000 power. And then overcharge auto rearguard once per turn if you run your Vanguard attacks a grade 3 rearguard unit. If this unit was chosen by the ability of a grade 3 rearguard Vanguard, Aelquilibra in the card name for the turn, so energy blast 3 stand, this unit gets 10,000 power. Okay, cool. Downside is the Vanguard that is a grade 3 has to attack another grade 3 or greater, but on the bright side, it can stand itself and it gets 10k and is literally the only energy user in the deck. So again, if you don't end up drawing this, you can use the generator just to draw more cards and hopefully draw into this, which all around makes it a very solid grade 2. And it always gets the 5k anyways, and you know, Aelquilibra's actual boost is 5k, it's just everyone else gives them 10k on top of it. So this thing technically has always been chosen by its ability, even if you're not going to give it its power, but obviously for the restand you're going to give it its power anyways. But 4 of Shalhuub, very solid grade 2, restand itself, gives itself good numbers, it's a good card to have. And then we have 4 copies of by Zinzin Dragon. I'm not even going to try with that one. Grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. This is an armored dragon with a lot of guns on it. Continuous guard circle. If you have 3 or more rear guards with overcharge ability, you get 10,000 shield. Okay, defensive card. Cool. 15k shield. That is amazing because my main issue with the deck is it felt like it wasn't defensive before. To be fair, you could build a defensive version with overcharge. I just willingly chose not to. And again, as I say earlier, fuck consistency in that same right. Fuck defense. Let's go all in on the offense. So having a 15k shield is nice. And then overcharge continues rear guard. The ability I'm starting to hate when it's chosen by, if it's chosen by the ability of Great Third Vanguard, Aelquilibra in the card name, plus 1,000 power. Okay. I really don't like how 2 of the 3 cards that were revealed to support this archetype, this set, had the exact same skill verbatim that most of the other cards already had. So I'm really hoping the future support like just has a different thing for it. The only reason this thing is here is because of the shield. That's the reason why it's here. Not this. Definitely not this. And the only reason this thing is here is, again, this. Not this. Because if I needed this, I already had these guys, and the grade 3 did its job better. So take that as you will. But 4 of this, the shield value is nice. And again, being a 20k is nice as well. But most of the time I was going to pick the back row and, you know, Shalhuub for it. We move on to our last grade 2, 4 copies of Drag Rid of Badia, so grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base, all placed on hand from rearguard circle, check top 7, choose up to 1 a card with the overcharge ability and a different card name from this unit, or up to 1 to equalize the scales of the world. From 1 them revealed, put your hand, shuffle the deck, and if you revealed a card, choose a card from your hand, shuffle to soul, or discard it. Okay. Oh, wait, that just or discard it? This card's much better than I thought it was. Because you either get a free soul, which again, having to soul blast 2 for this thing skill sucks. So you either get a free soul after already grabbing more consistent units to rush with, or on top of that, or you know, your order, or you can discard it. So if you have a card that has a nice discard ability, I can't really think of any card on the top of my head that doesn't trigger specifically during the ride phase. Because right now I'm thinking of like the grade 2 cycler cards, and then the trial deck grade 1s that could discard themselves to be superior called. But whatever has discard effects, like I guess technically Tojogardi, the grade 1 that I was running in the last build, but I don't count that because it would go to Soul anyways. But point is, if you have cards with discard effects, you could use them with this. That ability is really good, and which is why this card's in here at 4 copies. Except, I literally only see one of these a game to the point where I only get that free soul charge once, and this search typically doesn't hit this for some reason. And yet for some reason, even though this has not changed at all, I somehow draw all copies of this now compared to before where maybe I'd only draw 1, and if I was really lucky, 2. I don't understand this word, but you know what, it does what it does. And then the standard overcharge, if it was chosen by the ability of the Aelquilibra, it gets 10,000 power. Okay, again, solid grade 2. 20k, technically 25 with the Vanguard skill, and it's a top 7 searcher that I never get to use, but it can trigger so many different abilities in one go, and because it is so incredibly generic, if there ever is a Vanguard deck that just focuses on a bunch of discarding that's in Dragon Empire, then this card is going to be the king, because it just says add any card, so for Badia. Then we have our last grade 2 in the deck, one of in the red deck, none in the main deck of Gatling Cajon Dragon. So before I get on to its stats and skill, I shouted this out last time and I'll shout it out again. I really love, like, the smoothness of this card's art. Well, first up, the Gatling gun is cool, but look at it, like the wings just feel like so metallic and smooth, but like, or like the armor to them, but then like the actual wings themselves, like they just look so smooth and like they wouldn't like be weak flaps, and its armor just looks like you can kind of just rub your finger across it and it'd be so satisfying. I don't know, this thing looks really cool. And it's grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base, auto wrote upon by a grade 3 card with Aelquilibra in the card name, check top 3, choose up to 1 grade 3 card from one reveal, put your hand and put the rest on bottom. If you reveal the card, overcharge ability, soul charge 1. Okay. This has the ability to get you a soul charge and to get you a powerful unit. Pretty much this thing. While that is good, half of the time you do not hit, at least when I play this deck, you do not hit a card with overcharge. Half of the time, and no one can say this is deck building fault because this is literally required of you to do this to run 16 triggers. Half of the time I will hit in exact order, draw, crit, heal, or crit, crit, heal. I wish I was joking, but that is genuinely true. And there's video proof of this happening at least once. And this, the thing I'm so glad about this skill, and the thing I always double check with it, is that it adds any card that's grade 3 or less, which I am so happy. I mean, you don't have to add something if you don't want to. If you just want to bot deck all 3 triggers, you can bot deck all 3 triggers because you have the deck shuffler right here. But if you're like me and you don't draw the deck shuffler, this is a way to get a 15k shield into hand and give yourself a little bit more defensive capabilities, even if you're not going to soul charge. Also, the fact that this can hit a persona, which is nice as well. All around, Gatling Cajon Dragon is a very solid grade 2, because while half of the time I use this, I hit triggers, it is ultimately the reason I stay alive, because it either gets me defensive cards, it either gets me a persona ride, or in the off chance it does give me an overcharge unit, it gets me a soul charge in the process, which has somehow led to game, because those are the games that last a little bit longer than the other ones, and then those are the games where I'm going to need the extra souls. So one of Gatling Dragon, very solid grade 2, he deserves a spot here. And then we have our grade 3s, 4 copies of our order to equilibrize the scales of the world. Grade 3 normal order, play it by simply C being 1. If you have Vanguard Aelquilibra in the card name, choose up to 2 grade 3 less different cards. Two grade 3 less cards with different card names from your drop zone with the overcharge ability and call them to rearguard circle. Okay, this is just a CV1, call any 2 things. Again, if you feel like you're going to have a CV problem with this deck, just spam the hell out of Frieza. But also, call this, still procs because it doesn't have to be placed from hand. This sadly won't proc because this does have to be placed from hand, but literally your entire drop zone is your thing. So if you just want to, like, whatever you discard for a ride deck so you can save on your triggers for guarding, you can pretty much use with this. If you're playing against an opponent's deck that murders your rear guards, such as Gandiva, you can just use this. All around, to equilibrize the scales of the world is a very good grade 3 order. It's simplistic, but it does its job well, and again, the deck does have support for it, and even though I don't draw that support, if you can't tell, I'm really pissed off about that, because this card is the only reason I bothered to upgrade this deck. If this card was not here, I would not have made this deck. I would not have put this in. I would not have put this in. I literally would not have upgraded this deck. And yet, for some reason, I don't draw, but my consistency with seeing the order has increased, even though the copies have remained the exact same. So you know what is what it is. Either way, 2 rear guards out to board, 1 CB, and it's not a CB problem with the deck because it goes even with Frieza, so 4 copies of Equilibrize the Scales of the World. And again, if you're wondering why I keep mentioning Frieza, is because you can just Frieza, overcharge her, She does her boost thing, she dies at the end of the turn, you countercharge. The next turn, you equilibrize, you call it right back, and then you just keep repeating the process. It's literally just a break even, so 4 of. Then we move on to our last card on the deck, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of the ride deck, of Destined 1 of Scales, Aelquilibra. So grade 3 10% 13k base, just like the grade 2 version. It's just so smooth. It's scales, it's armor, it's everything. It just looks amazing, and I love the lightning in the background. Anyways, active Vanguard once per turn by Soul Blasting 2, choose any 3 of your rear guards, and they all get 5,000 power. Then if you chose 2 or more with the overcharge ability, draw a card, and he'll get 10,000 power. I love how not all 3 have to have overcharge, which means, like, say for example, you only have, God forbid this ever happened to you, but say for, well, I mean, granted, most of these anyways are going to get like really good numbers out of this. Like, thankfully, all of them will always be 25k. But say for example, you chose this, and then your only other option for a rear guard was Dino Breeze because you barely survived your opponent's turn. You called a rear guard just to call a rear guard. Well, because you have at least 2 of them that already had overcharge, you still get the draw. This thing still gets the 10k, and now your Dino Breeze is a 10k booster. So pretty solid that it can still work from the position where even if you have to have a rear guard that doesn't have overcharge, it can still give it good numbers. And itself is still, it's getting 10k power, since all of your units with overcharge are at least going to get an extra, at the bare minimum, 5k out of it. But let's just say, assume that you're using most of your units, they're going to get plus 10k. 3 of your units are already 23 or 25k bodies, and this thing's a 23k body as well. So 2 Soul Blasts make 4 of your 6 units in the 20s. So pretty solid. And then Divine Skill, Act Vanguard. If your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, for a simple CB1, choose any 2 of your rear guards, whatever you didn't choose from this ability, essentially. They give 5,000 power for that turn, and then if your opponent has 4 less cards in the damage zone, choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, deal it 1 damage, and the power increase, or for that trigger effect specifically, lose 10,000 power. So, okay, first up, if they see a million, quote unquote, if they see the over, the million becomes like, I'm not going to try to subtract the number from that, but whatever that number is. So you could hit over them with an over, but I mean, more likely than not, if they see like a draw trigger or a crit trigger or a heal trigger or a front trigger, they just lose that trigger effect essentially. So, or they don't lose the trigger effect, they lose the trigger power, but they still get the effect. So, like, if they could heal, they could heal off it, or the draw trigger, they could still draw off it. Either way, though, being able to do a bop damage is great, especially with a deck that already hits for really big numbers, and then you're supposed to rush with in the early game. Not to mention the fact that it can literally give its whole board a total of 5k, and again, make everything over 20,000 is pretty great, especially because your first grade 3, actually all of your grade 3 turns, any turn that you use this effect, I guarantee you will have a column hitting over 40,000. You'll probably have a column hitting for either 38,000 or 43,000, depending on what turn you're on. In the turn you use this, I guarantee you nothing will hit less than 50 on its first swing when it's boosted. So all around, very solid grade 3. And if you happen to have 2 Shalhuubs boosting it, and you have enough energy to use both, you have a total of 5 attacks, of which 3 of them are going to be over the 40s, and 2 of them are going to be sadly at 30, but I mean, they're going to have, your opponent's going to have a hell of a time blocking that, because you're probably going to have that Divine Skill turn on you. So without further ado, that's it for this deck. I hope all of you enjoyed. All around, this deck is very fun to play. I love being able to aggro my opponent down a lot. It's got a nice art style. The cards are really cool to use, and it's really consistent, even though it has every right to be more consistent. It's consistent in a different way than what it should be, is what I'll say. But either way, that's it for this one. I hope all of you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you want to switch, and don't forget to sign up your Vanguards.